So, before we start, if you haven't already, because there's a lot more people than there is on signups, please go there, sign up on the thing so we can actually go through. Um, Everyone's muted only for the fact that we want this to be a little bit more civil, not like everyone talking over each other. So everyone feels like peaches right now. I understand. Uh, what else? All right, there's Anthson.
Okay, so we've got the sign up form. If you haven't used that yet, please sign up if you want to speak today. Everybody's going to get at least 5 minutes to say what they need to say. The admins running the channel are not going to interrupt you. Okay? We'll let you take your time to say your piece, and then we'll offer the best response we can to everybody. I just want everybody to keep in mind and remember that this league is about everybody having fun, ultimately. It's not about the RP. It's not about winning first place. And we are still just in our second season here. It's easy to look forward and see how things could be and get upset that they're not that way yet. But I'd like everybody to think about where we were last season and the problems we faced, the stuff we ran into, and the things we overcame in order to get to where we're at now. And things are only going to get better, and this is part of it. We want to solicit as many responses as we can, not just today, but any day. There's a lot of players in the league, though, and there's just a few people running things with limited hours as well. So we're doing our best. We appreciate everybody that's coming here today and signed up to say something. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like Wumple signed up to speak first, so I'm going to go ahead and let him say his
Actually,
piece.
let me, I want to bring up a few things first,
Okay,
in reference to suggestions that have been said already. Um, I don't know if, okay, Jake is here. There's a lot of like talk about major changes to next season. A lot of things have been thrown around. Uh, and I want to like reiterate that like a lot of the stuff that's been suggested is probably not going to happen this season at all. I mean, we probably can try and implement them, but it's going to be hard. So what we're going to probably do is 90% of the stuff, or I want to say more like 75% of the stuff that's going to be suggested that is mostly going to be for season 3. So try and think ahead to season 3. We only have a week left and then playoffs. So most of the stuff that's going to be changed is really not going to happen easily and without messing up what's happening right now. So just keep that in mind. But I
yeah,
do like a lot of the suggestions we've been hearing over at least the last 3 days, and I know that's going to be brought up, and it's going to be good because that way a lot of people can have an idea of what's been brought up. Because a lot of people have been saying the same thing. They're like, "Oh, this could be done," and then I heard someone say the same thing in almost basically the same way. So with having everyone here, it's going to make it a lot easy. But yeah, so Wumple, you're up first.
go ahead, Wumple.
All right. So my idea was that like at the end of each season, like the top 3 teams or top 2 get to like decide if they want to stay as a team. And I was thinking we could extend this to like season 1, so we could at least have like maybe like 3 teams from last season. So that like over like 4 seasons, we'd have 8 teams, and then at the end there could be like a promotion tourney. And then if someone like drops out, you could like fill it up through the draft each season. There could be like, I don't know, like how sports have like rookie drafts. So like worst team would get top pick and stuff, and the best team would get the first pick, or the best team would get the last pick. Oh, that's about it. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Let me take a.
I
All right,
can.
so
I
top.
can. Here, I also have what I wrote down on a notepad.
Okay, so response to that is we are looking at that, and honestly, that's been where I wanted to go with from the beginning. I know a lot of people like the idea of the draft, and it's a lot of fun to do. The problem with the draft is that the players don't have any say in what teams they go on, and this has led to problems. And teams sticking together after the end of the season willingly, of their own accord, that's eventually where we wanted to go. In fact, I envision one day having a 10-team league where the bottom 2 teams get relegated and have to fight to keep their spots, and the top 8 teams stay in it, just like LCS. We're not there yet.
That'd be cool.
And I think keeping some of the top teams around at the end of the season is a good start to get us there. As far as extending it to season 1, that's an idea I hadn't considered, and it's worth looking at. I will say that it's worth looking at.
I don't think it'd be that bad if like Rich Gang and like Victorious came back, because both the teams seem to like really like each other.
That's a good point, and it's something worth considering. We'll take a look at it at the end of the season, but I don't want to say 100% certainly, but I think Dave and I both are heavily leaning toward letting at least 2 teams stick together at the end of the season, if not more.
Yeah, and I know I think Zark had this original idea, so for at least for this season, I mean, I really don't know where he got that from, but it might not have been someone else. But either way, I really like it for this season, but like you said, it transferring from season 1 is going to be a little bit more difficult. Like, Victoria's Secret, they might want to come back, but if they don't, then they might not. In Rich Gang, I mean, granted, you're part of the team, but I don't know if you really are sure if all those players are going to want to come back. So it's really, I feel like it could be done, but like I said, we'll probably have to look into it a little bit more and see if people are going to be okay with bringing back those 2 teams, because I'm not sure how other people are going to think of it. Like what other people within the game or teams from this season, if they stay, say like Breaking Bar, if they stay, or think about it as well. So.
Okay, so Rom's up next. Rom, go ahead.
Pass.
All right, is that it?
Hell yeah.
All right. All right, next person, Beyonce.
I mean, the most I would just say is make like rules that you stick to throughout the entire season and don't change it in the middle of the season, because that makes it unfair for other teams that don't use like the changed rules. Because like with all the trade-ins, right? Sure, it was good for the teams that did use it, but all the teams that didn't use it, like it made it unfair for them.
Okay. I will note that for next season we are writing up like a professional PDF style rule book in a sense. It's in its very early drafts, but we are going to make sure it looks nice, more professional done, and that way we can't, if someone catches us out on like overlooking a rule, then oh, this and this, or if something gets done differently, we can at least look at the rule book and be like, okay, this is what's being done. So.
But I mean, like, keep to the rules like that you make in the beginning of the season. Like, don't change it in the middle of it.
Well, again, the problem with that is that we want to have flexibility because the rules aren't perfect right now. And some of them, when they first got created, were bad, and they had to go. And keeping them around was just a bad idea for everybody. And a few of those instances, everybody was on board with getting rid of them. Had we stuck to them, I just don't think it would have made for a very good league. And as we continue, things are only going to get more stringent. So as we start to decide what works and what doesn't work, based on community feedback and of course how things actually play out, then we're going to have more of an idea of what should be concrete and what shouldn't. And a lot of things are experimental, and I still want to reserve the right to modify those things on the fly in order to get a better sense of what works and doesn't work, so that we can arrive at that perfect situation. I use the word perfect a little loosely here, but as perfect as can be accepted, so that we arrive there sooner. And I understand the point that that modifying things partway through the season or allowing exceptions and whatnot, it takes away from the integrity of that season itself. And you're absolutely correct. It does. But again, the trade-off is we're going to progress toward the real solutions a lot faster if we get rid of the stuff that doesn't work and try to implement some things that do work. That being said, we still want to preserve the integrity of the season to the point that it can be completed in a way that satisfies a majority of the people. And I think we did that with season 1, and I think we're going to do that with season 2. But as far as your suggestion, don't change the rules goes, that is what we're working toward. 100%. I promise you, at some point we're going to get there to where we can say, this is how we're setting things out at the beginning of the season. We're not going to change them. If we do make any changes, they're going to be minor, and they'll be at the end of the season.
I mean, can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is, you're seen as the boss of the league, so and I guess you're not that transparent when it comes to why you do a certain thing. So can you just have a group of people that would be able to explain why, or at least vote on it? Because right now it just seems as you're the big boss and you do whatever you want.
Okay, that's fair. And first step in that was getting Dave on board, not just to have a second person be in on the decision making, but also to have another person that people can go to if they have a question about the way things are. I haven't tried to be whatever the opposite of transparent word you want to use is. It wasn't my intention. Anytime somebody's posted something criticizing the league or bringing up certain points, I don't go in there and delete these posts. I try
just
to answer.
just the whole thing with the Reddit though, on text you can misinterpret a lot of stuff, but if you actually talk to, I guess if we could do more of these group things on voice is a lot easier to do than just writing everything in text, because a lot of people misinterpret what you're trying to say.
Well, yeah, and you're right about that, and we want to keep doing these. I think the player feedback is really valuable, but there are a lot of people in this league, and most of the people that play, think about themselves, and then maybe beyond that, they're other team members, but not too really much beyond that. But on a daily basis, I will get 10 different messages from people asking for an explanation for things, or wanting something to change, or wanting to get an exception to a rule. There's a lot going on, and I'm just one person, and I probably spend at least 20 hours a week. That's a part-time job on this league. And it's really getting to the point where I can't spend any more of my own personal, because there's no more time left between work and sleep, and making sure that I don't making sure that I have my time for myself, so that I don't get sick of everything and just say fuck it and throw it out the window. Again, Dave is here to help with that, because he can take some of that load from me, and it's a step in the right direction. We're looking at adding more people to the group, and having a real council of administrators. The trick with that, of course, is that I refuse to let anybody administrate who's playing in the Saturday League, and that's for obvious reasons. I don't think anybody would appreciate somebody who's on a team getting to decide things for other teams, and most people want to play. I've had several people approach me about being an admin, and then at some point they said, you know what, I really want to play. So, and I understand that. That's fine. If they want to play, they want to play. But it does make it hard to find good quality, mature people that have good ideas that mesh well with the other admins, but still bring, you know, diversity in ideas and decision making. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're moving toward. And I apologize if things haven't been as transparent as you would like them to be. I would hope that everybody would understand it's not my intention. I'm not actually going out there trying to hide things, like deleting posts and banning people who dissent and disagree. That's not the goal here. But at the same time, understand that that's a reactive thing, and proactively, as far as transparency goes, we definitely could stand to step it up a bit. But we're making strides toward that.
All right, anything else? Fly, Beyonce.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
All right,
All right, cool.
All right. Next is my lovely friend Zark, which I believe he might have a lot to say, or only one thing to say. All right, Zark, got the floor.
All right. Well, if anything happens, like if any changes happen, the only thing I want to see is that like there's an improvement to team environment and how we manage like people being able to get off of teams and be able to get traded or dropped or stuff like that. Like the player wants to get petitioned to drop for reasons they can if they want to, or if captains want to trade the whole season with like a trade transaction limit, they can, and like adding and dropping so teams can work together and come up with like a more cohesive environment for the team so it's more fun for everybody in general. So in case you're like stuck on a team you don't like and you're causing trouble because your team doesn't like you, you don't like your team, and it just causes more problems from there, and then maybe the team breaks up and it causes a whole big league ruckus, and I think that's the big issue here, and I just want to see that improve.
So
And I have ideas on that as well. I think I already showed some of them to you, but I think we can work on that some other time as well. Like adding a transaction limit for trades and adding and dropping and stuff like that.
yeah, a lot of those ideas we're going to implement next season. So just so I understand where you're coming from, you want the flexibility of being able to move in and out of teams to be just a little bit more open, but also a little bit more defined with a set limit number of times you can make these modifications per season. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so you can't like abuse that power, and like people want to try and form like a super team, they can't really do that. So I want to like limit that.
Well, as far as abuse goes, it's going to happen. I'm just
Well, yeah,
the
but that's
more
why we try to limit it as much as we can.
the more options you open up, the more potential you have for abuse, and I've seen it play out not just in this community but in other communities. I used to belong to a gaming community where it was very much like this. It wasn't League of Legends. It was a long time ago. You'd laugh at me if you knew what the game was, but it had one guy in charge, and this guy was he had a great game set up, but this guy was a real terror to deal with. And it's like I understand what you're saying about keeping things open, and one of the similarities is this guy had a very open game. You could do a lot of things in this game that had big abuse potential consequences, but so long as everybody was following the rules, it was actually more healthy and a lot more fun for everybody because you did have those options open. The downside of that was he had to be a real jerk sometimes to people that stepped outside the lines. And we're talking bans.
I think it'd be fine.
I mean, bans are a serious thing here. With our community as small as it is, you ban one person and chances are that person has at least 5 or 6 friends, if not more, that are going to be sad to see him go, even if they understand the reason for the ban. So I think the more we open things up, the better the league can be, so long as there's not all of these backdoor dealings and all of these half disclosures and people trying to build that super team. I mean, everybody's got their own idea as to what a fair trade is and what isn't. And it seems to vary heavily depending on whether or not you're the one requesting the trade. So I'll have people complaining that somebody who was Diamond last season is replacing somebody within 3 divisions of themselves. But at the same time, I'll have somebody asking me, hey, can I replace a Gold 4 with a Plat 4? That'll happen multiple times in the same day. Everybody has their own.
Just have to realize. I feel like people realize that the mods have the final say, but we also have to have rules that limit it so it's not too crazy, which is something with maybe I don't know, a 4-3 division limit on changing a roster spot. I think 3 might be good. I don't know.
3
but
is the guideline.
Go ahead.
I have to stress how extremely subjective it is to evaluate a person's performance and decide whether or not they're an appropriate fit. And that's why originally I only wanted to limit inclusion in the league to people who play in the solo league, because we see their performance every week. Unless they're out there actively throwing games and stuff, then it's you can get a lot better idea as to where they fit. There are some people that function at a very high level compared to their solo queue rating. And then there are some people that don't function very well at all, and you're like, how is that guy Diamond whatever? How is that guy even Platinum? He plays so badly in Saturday games and solo league games. It's subjective, and there's no way to quantify it. And as much as you want to sit there and come up with rules as far as divisions and everything goes, it's not ultimately it's not fair unless there's a heavy amount of discretion involved in it. And that's where, going back to transparency, every time one of these decisions gets made, everybody wants to know what our reasoning was behind the decision. And it's like, well, it took 2 guys 30 minutes, an hour of talking it out and researching it to come to that decision. So I can't put that re-explanation of our thought process into every single person that comes to me. Even if I make a text post on Reddit, people are still going to pick it apart because it's inherently subjective. It's not an exact science, and some people are going to disagree on it, especially when it's fuzzy, when it's kind of right on the line. It could, but I could see an argument against it. It's really hard when it comes to roster replacements, and that's why eventually I want to get to the point where anybody can get picked up, regardless of rank. If they think you're good enough to play in the major league, then you can get picked up for the major league, and you'll sign with that team. Right now, our player base is too small for that, and so we kind of have to limp along on these rules where the the mods have to be heavily involved in the decision-making process. And there are going to be some people that disagree with the decisions that we make on roster replacements. But ultimately, everybody needs to understand it is a subjective process. And even though there's good arguments for and against each single change in rosters, we have to make a decision one way or the other, and we just got to roll with it. I think the recent decisions that we made were very healthy. A lot of people were really upset about Wobad joining the league, and Top Lane Buffet played like trash on Saturday. Wobad did not come in like a Diamond 3 and just go 12-1 and completely trash. I feel like that was a very healthy decision. I feel like Yonopa allowing him to play was a very healthy decision for his. Now, his team did win, yes, but I felt like it was a competitive game, and I don't feel like he brought an unfair edge to that team. And both of those teams, we're talking about teams that aren't number one. They're not out in front.
Yeah, I just want to see an improvement in team cohesiveness throughout the next season. If we can help that at all, that's all I really care about seeing. That's about it for me.
I also want to note real quick. John brought up the idea of a voting committee for bans and stuff like that. I do want to note real quick that we cannot have that happen due to Riot's ruling on admins, how they cannot be a part of a player in any sort. So having a voting committee like that to approve or disapprove trades is just. Plus, we find 10 admins. It's almost non-possible. Well, we're gonna aim, I think, for like 5 admins or so. That way, when trades happen, we have 5 people's views on it, 5 people that can research it and stuff like that. So, but I do want to bring that up because that has been brought up by more than just one person. It's just keep in mind that if you're an admins cannot be players, and along that line. So
Right.
and when I say admins, I mean admins that make decisions about teams and actual team stuff cannot be admins, but we can have admins like Kama and Jarrett who are here to help with miscellaneous stuff, stuff like that. I do want to, yeah, I want to note that because people will go, oh, well, Kama and Jarrett are admins, so it's different. They do other stuff, but more of the admin work of the league is more where we can't have players.
And maybe we need to have a different name distinction so that people understand that admins are the only ones who administrate, and the other people involved are they're just here in order to provide labor and help out. And we do grant a small amount of administrative authority to some of the admins. For example, the solo league admins have the right to sit a player out for the night if they believe they've committed an infraction, and it wouldn't even really be sitting out for the night so long as an admin's on to review the case. Then we can make a decision, okay, yes, this person gets a solo queue ban, or no, this person gets a warning and he can keep playing for tonight, or however we decide. They don't actually have the decision-making authority, they just have the authority to kind of place somebody on hold until an admin gets to make that decision, and it would be for a night's games max. Okay, so next up is Jack.
Jack, right?
Jack.
Alrighty. Oh. Alright, Jack. Before you talk, I do want to note that Jack brought up something to me about a player spotlight, interviews, stuff along that line. I don't want to go into much detail because he'll be able to explain it, and I want to say that Jack has been pretty... he's made some really good suggestions, and I want to note that they are, and definitely something we are going to be looking forward in the future from him. But for the most part, go on. You got the floor.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that and how, I don't know how many of you other players were like in the Terracotta League, but they had the whole Terracotta Journal deal. And I was thinking that we could use something along that sort of line where, like, I'd be able to, like, be at the head of it if it was to be implemented, like, this season or next season, where we could have player spotlights, like, various interviews, team interviews, up-and-coming players and teams, and, like, basic, like, week rundowns about, like, what the matches were and how they were played and who won. Because I know a lot of times, like, if I'm not able to see the matches, I'm always curious as to, like, who won against who. And I think, and, like, what happened overall in the week, it can, like, considering trades and all that. And I think I'd be able to cover that with, like, a bit of help from other people. And that's probably, like, the major thing that I wanted to bring up.
I think that's a really great idea. There are a lot of really cool things that the community can do and already do, like the stats and power rankings. That's completely player run, and yes, I would like to see more of that stuff go on. So anybody that wants to contribute, the admins will work with that person. If we need to give you access to certain areas of the site, or just involve you in some sort of other way, anything that we can do to help out with that, we're going to be here to encourage that and keep it going.
I also want to note that you're basically going to turn into Travis 2.0, and I very much appreciate that because, Travis is awesome in the real league, if you know what I mean, where he interviews players and stuff like that. And always great. It's always great to have someone to like sit down with players and like let them explain like how this game happened, how how you lost, how you won. Interviewing like players that are like up and coming. Someone that it's actually really good. Like I actually really like that idea. It's gonna be very beneficial for the league in a sense. So thanks to Todd for at least bringing it up and wanting to implement that because even if you don't pull through with it, which I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying if someone else wants to, I mean, they can even help you. Like, this is a joint effort for community stuff like this. So, if like Anthson said, please don't be afraid to step up and want to help out with stuff like this. It'd be very beneficial and helpful.
And ask us what we can do to help you. If there's anything
Yeah.
that we can do, we're gonna be there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Like, I mean, I asked Malkathos if he could do like sort of like sub part of the site for like how the Terracotta Journal was, but like if that isn't like something that we want to do, like I can just do like posts on Reddit, like general like formatting, and like anybody that wants to help, like we can all do it together. Like more than one person is always good to have more than one opinion on like who's good and who's not. That's basically all I wanted to say.
All right. So,
Awesome. Next up,
Jarrett, did you want to talk?
Yeah.
okay.
So this is something that I know me and you have talked about, and I've talked about with a few others. Everyone seems to like this idea pretty much. So as we grow and expand, we're obviously gonna shoot for more than 8 teams, and I don't think you want to have a league too big with the main league. So one of the ideas is to create like a sub league, like either A league or B league, right? So maybe the main league's 75%, sub league's 25%, whoever doesn't make the draft. Now, one of the ideas to control the add drop problem, which is obviously the real big issue we've had the last 2 years, adding players, refilling players, or whatever, right? So whoever doesn't get drafted for the main 5 roster spots for a team will be in the sub league, right? Now, with this sub league, you will be able to basically be able to pull players up from the sub league to fill your roster spot on your main league. And you will also take your subs from the sub league. So you will only have 5 roster spots for your team. And anyone that will be added or dropped will be pulled from this sub league to your main roster. So basically, anyone that is not here in time to sign up for the league will not be able to participate in any way until the next league starts. So no randoms hopping in and out. Everyone will have an equal shot at adding anyone or dropping anyone to their team.
Well, the problem.
So I know it's kind of like it's like a big change, but I don't know. I know a lot of people are familiar with like fantasy football, like waiver wires, right? So one of the idea that Zark helped me hash out was like, for instance, waivers would be on Sunday. So if you wanted to remove someone from your main roster spot on your team, you would put in the waiver request on Sunday, and then based on your waiver position, you would be able to get whatever pick was predetermined for your team. And then whoever cleared waivers, the open drop would be on Monday. So you can pick up anyone you want on Monday.
With people coming and going from the sub league, or from the minors or the B league, whatever you want to call it, where does that leave those teams?
That's definitely a good question that we have to figure out. But I think it gives everyone an even chance to be picked up. And say you don't get drafted on the main league. So right now, a bigger problem is, so we have 5 roster spots and those 2 subs don't get to play, and that causes a lot of issues on the teams, right? So if this way everyone plays every week, and if you think you deserve a spot on that main team, then you're going to play your ass off in the sub league to get noticed and get picked up for a main roster spot. So how we control who's on what team in the sub league, especially with like the fluidity of adding or dropping people, that's still going to be up in the air a little bit. But I think overall it's something that could really help improve the league in a couple different ways.
I think we're definitely going to have 2 leagues next year. I don't think we're going to have any problem getting 80 signups. the how they're both run and how they interact with one another, that's something that is going to take hours and hours and hours of planning. And will definitely, those players that have already put a lot of work into the planning stages of that as to what they think their ideas should be and have written things down, those people will have a big seat at the table when it comes to helping the admins decide the format of the next season. And the good thing about that is we can really involve the players very heavily on any changes that we're making to next season because they don't affect the current competitive environment.
Yeah, and I want to. That's why having Zark, write up a good draft of like a rule book and like having these like suggestions thrown out here now is going to be very helpful for next season. Like I said before, some of the stuff definitely can't be implemented. Like something like that could just be thrown into right now. But when it comes to planning, I mean, it's with something like this, it's just gonna have to take a think tank. Those 10 people along the line are gonna have to sit down and talk with each other and be like, okay. We're going to figure out the perfect way. We're gonna like pick it apart, make sure nothing bad happens. But overall, I like the idea. I can see some bad to it, but I think I kind of went over with you how I think it might end up being bad. But in the end, it's just gonna take planning in the future of how this is gonna work. But I mean, I definitely like the idea overall.
I've just personally never liked the idea of taking someone that's not in the league and just inserting them in a spot. So I don't think that's fair to everyone else that's stayed and has all the members on their team, or in any way, whether they're higher rank or lower rank, to just sub a random person in the middle of the season. I think that hurts. It's kind of penalizes all the teams that stay together. So this way, everyone has a fair shot at everyone, and there's no random people. Everyone should be a known commodity that's coming and going within the main league.
Yeah, I agree. It's not fair to everybody, and it's a bad situation. But that's one of those where you kind of where you take the bad instead of the worse, because there's really no better alternative. The only alternative is that team doesn't get to play anymore. They're out for the season, and then we drop one team, we don't get prizes.
It's kind of like voting for Obama. You didn't really want to vote for him, but you voted for him. At least I did. So, lesser two evils. But either way, I like the suggestion. Let's go with, all right. Anything else, Jarrett? Luckily, we don't have to give you voice or anything. All right, cool.
Okay, so
All right.
I think he was talking for Ginger, so I don't know if...
I was. He came here,
Okay.
though, so it's fine.
Okay.
Now. Okay, so I believe that right now the biggest problem is people are tends to be busy, and I think the sub thing the sub league was a good idea. Except I don't think that removing subs completely is a good idea either. Because what if on the main league somebody decides not to show one of these days, and a team needs a sub? Where would they get the sub? From the sub league or where?
Yeah, I think it would be from the sub league. You're talking about for the future, right? Yeah.
Okay, but then if they take it from the sub league, how would the sub league play on the same day? Or are they just gonna play with the same people that was just picked up by the sub league?
I mean, it would be in the plan. I mean, that would be all about like planning to make sure it would work correctly. At the moment, I think our plan was, or I think Jared's plan was that have the sub league where these players can play against each other's, maybe not something like a set tournament along the line, but something that can where these players can like play against each other, not really kind of like the solo ladder in a sense. And this is kind of why I was like, so we could just use this as kind of like the current solo ladder. But it would have to be really looked at and fine tuned in a sense.
Right, and that's why I said this is going to take a lot of planning by a lot of people. There are several things that we can do. We can have them play on a different day. But again, every solution has problems attached to it. I promise you. I have maybe run across one or two solutions that were like, you know what? That fixes everything and doesn't break anything else. So let's say we have them play on Sunday and our major league plays on Saturday. Well, what if you want to pull somebody from the Sunday league to Saturday who works Saturdays? Or vice versa. Some people are only available at certain hours. And that's one of the big decisions that I made from the get-go that has helped this league not be terracotta, that has actually led this league to succeed, is the time slot. We know when we're playing every week. So you know if you have to work Saturday evenings, you're not going to get to participate. So you're not even going to sign up and bother with it. At the same time, if you know you have Saturday evenings free, barring something big coming up that you can't avoid, like a funeral or a wedding or something like that, or a big League of Legends tournament that's in your local area. But barring that, you can show up and play at that time. But like it's going to take some planning. It's going to take a lot of thought. And one of the things to keep in mind is that if your change gets suggested and we told you, you know what, that sounds like a really good idea, I like it, and we're going to take a look at it, and we don't implement it next season, that doesn't mean that we were just blowing smoke up your ass. We have about maybe 5 to 10 really good ideas on the table right now, and they are not all going to get implemented at once. And there's a reason for that. The change needs to happen at a reasonable pace, and that's why I said earlier it's better if we keep things flexible and allow us to make changes on the fly in the season, with the goal that every single season is going to have less of those on the fly changes than the last one, because you have to give something time to see if it works, because there are always unintended consequences. When you decide to do something and you're like, well, I didn't expect that to happen, you learn your lesson and you modify it, or you get rid of it and you move on. Everything that seems like a good idea, before I implemented open trading, there were a lot of people messaging me about it. Please open trades. It's so toxic. All these 4 or 5 teams aren't getting along. If we could just open trades and everybody gets swapped, then it would fix the problem. There was a lot. After everything that went down, those same people turned around and, that was a horrible idea. Why did you decide that? How come you let it go through? Nobody thinks about the unintended consequences until it happens. And then you're like, that was a bad idea. Well, at one point it was really touted as a good idea. And some of these good ideas that you guys are bringing up right now, maybe 1 or 2 of them are actually really terrible ideas, and we're about to find out why. The thing we're not going to do is implement every single good idea that we think is a good idea and have several of them turn out to actually be bad ideas unbeknownst to us and have it ruin the league. We have to take this slow. We have got to implement just a few changes at a time, see how they work out, see if they need retooling or if they're good on their own, and then we go from there. Okay, now we can take these other good ideas that we have on the back burner and move them to the forefront. So please don't think that if we don't immediately implement your change today that we don't care about your opinion and we were lying to you when we told you, yeah, it was good, and just patting you on the head and sending you on your way. That's not the way it is. Orange, you got anything else?
Yeah, I actually do. About the subs, I actually have an idea that I just want to throw out there. Maybe it's a good idea, maybe not. Because I see a lot of people who are relatively busy. Prime example of this is Gingerfied, obviously. But I think that instead of having just 1 sign up for the players who want to play, I think there should be 2 sign-ups. One for the players who are dedicated to play, and the people who are less dedicated sign up for more about like a sub sort of thing, instead of just having 1 sign up. That's what I think is good.
I think that's a really good idea. I think that, wow, I hadn't even thought of that. I guess what we would do is have the ability to sign up as a free agent, and you wouldn't be drafted onto a team necessarily. You'd be available to sub in and coach and whatever else, be involved on a non-committed level. I think that's a really good idea that I can't see has any negative consequences to it at all. So, yeah.
I want to input something. Let's poke this. this was a suggestion. I'm just literally reading the text, but I want to bring it up just because this actually could work. Each team has a sister team. One is a sub league, one is a main league. Main league can pull people from the sub league and bench main league players. So this is kind of like the idea of having like a, the teams that are platinum and diamond, and a few gold players, and then having a league for gold and silver players, and like, you might have a platinum player in the B league and stuff like that. I feel like that would be a good idea to like be able to add in having like a sister team in a sense. There's a sub league with your own team in a sense, and that way you have like someone to practice with, kind of like how T-Lol actually had this, which was pretty cool. You had Illuminati White and Illuminati Black. God, those are awful names every time I think of it. And where they had like I can't. All right. Yeah. So yeah, and overall, I think that would be a good idea. Or I think that's a good suggestion. Like you said, we would really have to look at it again. And I mean, like I said, most of these suggestions are going to have to be picked through with a fine-tooth comb, just kind of make sure nothing can happen bad. So.
Right. And one thing that's going to help us implement some of these changes that have a lot more flexibility than others is if I can get a community of positive peer pressure against negative behavior. I know it's easy to go hide inside a channel and get salty with your bros and talk about messing people over and screw this guy and screw that guy, and it just doesn't help anything. And even though there are going to be people out there like that, if the majority of us are positive and we're like, no, dude, we don't get down like that at house party. We had some people like that and they had to go. So if that's your way of thinking, then you got to get out of here. Everybody's making decisions or making suggestions as to what we think is best for the league. And if you just say, screw it, I give up, and I don't care what happens, and I hope that these people end up getting screwed over. In fact, I'm going to try to screw them over, and that's just not going to work. And I need everybody's help too, because I don't sit inside every channel and monitor every conversation. I shouldn't, but I need you guys to police that. I need you guys to keep people positive and working toward solutions instead of becoming part of the problem. So if you notice that these things are going on, even if come to me and let me know, hey, that silver 3 that the captain's trying to trade for a gold 3, that's actually a diamond 5 and I can prove it. Okay, good. Nip that in the bud before it takes place. Or if you're on a team and your captain's like, yeah, I got this silver 3 guy and he's actually Smurf though, he's diamond 5. I need you to speak up and say, I'm not going to be a part of that. That's actively going against the intentions of the rules that everybody's set up. And yeah, it may be good for our team for a little while until everybody figures it out, and then it's going to cause a huge backlash throughout the rest of the league. So I need everybody to step up and say, you know what's unacceptable is unacceptable. Even if it's good for my team temporarily, I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah, so please, there's been a lot of stuff going around lately. Just try and be more, I don't want to say mature because it's not really the word to use here, but try to be more civil, I would like to say. Everyone can be BM in a way that's nice, and you can, doesn't really do anything against you, but don't do anything that's gonna really make someone mad and be super toxic in a sense. So
don't add toxicity to the community.
Yeah, we want to try and be non-toxic at all. All right, next up is the young and only Hi-Am Peaches. The only problem is he is not going to talk, so everyone needs to kind of clear the chat, please. Yes, clear the chat, please. Post what you want to post, and then we'll go from there.
Peaches, can you just make an exception and talk?
I don't think he can. I don't even think he's allowed to. Is he even in here? Rob the bomb. No.
Peaches is in here.
Oh, he is.
That's why we
Yeah.
asked y'all to sign up with
Zane
your
from
TeamSpeak
1D.
name. Okay, apparently Peaches didn't sign up, so
Okay. Rip. Alright, we'll just go down the list. Kuro Sakai, where are you, bud? There you are. Channel group voice. Alright, Kuro. Hit me with your best shot.
All right. Well, I have a couple of things to say, so I'll try to crunch time it into 5 minutes as best as I possibly can. The main 3 points that I wanted to go over was one, the format and the brackets and how it is right now, and two, we covered a bit of the substitute policy, so I'll just say the things that haven't been said yet. And three is talking about captains and how what we should expect from captains going forward in the next season. So my first point is about the formats and the brackets. And right now, one of the problems I see with the season is that the season is currently too long for most players, especially since the next season is going to be in the summer, and a lot of people might be going on vacation or doing whatever, so it might be harder for people to commit for an entire season. And other problem I have is with the seeding. Is right now the round robin stage doesn't matter at all, and the team can literally be in 8th seed and just show up at playoffs and just take first place. So I think that's a problem, and we should probably fix that for if we're looking into a new format. I don't have a specific one in mind right now, but I heard a lot of good suggestions, and we could probably look forward to that. In my opinion, though, if I had to make a format, then I would probably give buys for the first and second seed. And for playoffs, I know Anson already talked about this, about how uh, what's it called, that would be a 10-team league, and the playoff would only have the top teams, and the bottom 2 teams would get relegated. So I'm glad Anson listened to my idea about that, and I think it will improve the league a lot for next season if we do stick with that. So that's my main problems about the format. If you have any questions about that, then you can ask now, or else I'll just move on to my next stuff.
well, yeah, let's tackle it one at a time so we don't get bogged down. Um, I think that most of the things you brought up we've addressed. Is there anything specifically that you brought up that you don't think has been addressed yet?
Not in specific. It's just
Okay.
the main things
Yeah, we're looking at
that I want to
at a
see in
different
a new
bracket.
fat.
We're looking at making changes to the way that we accept captains. We're working toward keeping 8 teams on and only relegating 2. It's a process, and we're making strides toward it.
Because I know you said something about the tournament requires 8 teams for RP rewards or something like that. So I'm not
Yes.
too sure about how that works.
I still need to get with Riot as far as brackets go. If you take a look at Battlefly, which is it's by far the easiest way for Riot to approve a tournament. It makes it so easy for them to go and look and see that everything is where it should be, and it gets responses and things from Riot a lot quicker. I would have to check and see what the seating options are for. Last season, I told them, look, I'm seeding the tournament based off performance in the group stage, but the group stage itself is not an official part of the tournament. So it's basically seeding based off previous performance. The tournament itself, in Riot's eyes, stands alone by itself. When you start introducing things like buys into that, again, Battlefly has to have the bracket capability of that. And on top of it, Riot has to be cool with us giving buys to people for their performance outside the tournament itself. So it's a lot to look into, but definitely those are changes that we want to make. I don't feel like the current setup, there's no point in the group stage. I feel like there is less of a point to the group stage with the current setup than there would be if some of the top teams got buys. And one of the problems with it is that, yes, first place team can lose to 8th place team in the first round. If we were to implement buys, then we could guarantee prizes for the top 2 performers.
Because my main problem with how it is right now is, okay, so you have first seed facing last place seed, which are sure, obviously, like most likely, like it's probably like 90% that the first seed team will win. But problem is not that, okay, is this first seed gonna go through? My problem is that it doesn't make for entertaining games, and also I don't think an 8th place team is already like unmotivated at this point, and why would they just want to play against the first seed team looking to probably get stomped? And I don't think that's gonna help out in their cause, which is why a buy would probably go like weed out all the boring games so no one has to play games like that.
Right. And the thing with the buys is the good thing is you can ensure that you're going to get a prize based off your performance in the group stage.
Yeah, I can't argue about that because I think you'll probably make a tournament based around Riot's rules. I'm not aware of all of them.
And the entire reason Battlefly actually does allow for a group stage as part of their format. The problem is you've got to set everything up ahead of time with the players and the teams and the group stage, and you can't really change much without raising eyebrows. There were a few things I had to change for reasons I don't want to go over last season. And yeah, I had to involve Riot with that, but if I'm having to bug them every time we're having a roster swap or something, it's just not going to work out. So in order to have the group stage like that, we may have to start the actual tournament itself, the Battlefly record keeping and everything, at the beginning of the group stage. Or not. Again, it depends on how much Riot is willing to work with us on all this.
Alright, so I'll move on to my next point.
I want to chime in real quick about that. On how I did some research on the rules and stuff on how tournaments have to be set up, and they really don't have like set rules specifically. They mostly said, okay, you can either have round robin, Swiss, double elimination, single elimination, and at the moment, having a heavily seeded bracket is considered a single elimination bracket. Like that's how that kind of works. Right. So, even if we go into like a heavily seeded bracket with buys, it's not really against our rules. And how the buys are set up, it would be from the round robin. So in reality, there's going to be no problem from Riot itself. It's more along the line of setting up an actual bracket for 8 teams without buys, because at the moment we have the heavily seeded bracket where the first and second place team don't play for I think it's like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's good for 8. It's good, like the buy is good for like 6 teams, but we still kind of have to like. There's like other brackets and like there's double elimination, Swiss formatting. There's like a bunch of different ways that we can really make this work. It's just a lot of theory crafting, finding out the right amount of teams, making sure it fits Riot's rules. So there's just a lot of stuff we have to like really look into before we like have a set playoff bracket. Because right now, I mean, the best way to do is just kind of stick to having either the heavily seeded bracket or the bracket we have now, and just kind of sticking with that.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to the admin team to create the best tournament.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've been using or looking at Dota 2's International 4. I don't know if anyone watched that, but they have a really good setup bracket, but it's just too many games. And another thing we have to keep in mind is making sure there's not too many games as well. So there's a lot of different ways we have to really look at this. Besides just this many bracket, this many teams in a sense. So all right, you can go ahead point 2.
Okay, so my next point is about captains, because I did mention this in when we had that Reddit post about when Anthson was taking suggestions, and I'm pretty sure it was top comment. And the main problem is right now the captains are mainly based on solo queue ladder in the in-house, which is fine in my opinion, because it does kind of test how a captain has to deal with like being a captain and drafting like a mini team every single time they play, which is fine. But in my opinion, it's not the only thing, and it's not the main thing we should look at. Because right now there's a lot of responsibilities that captain has to take, and I'm not sure, especially a lot of the captains that got chosen for this season. Like I'm not gonna try naming specific people, but like we already have one captain who decided to quit his team, and then he forced someone else to be captain, stuff like that, and a lot of captains not showing up. So in my opinion, if a captain's not being a good role model, then it's not gonna trend for a team to follow in his footsteps. So an idea that was thrown around was having a community vote on captains, or like, which is fine, but I'm also okay with admins approving of captains, and if they really break down the criteria of what actually makes a good captain, like they're going to be responsible, if they can show up, if they can work with others, if they can actually have good leadership qualities, all this stuff. But I'm fine with both ways of doing it, like doing it a community vote, or like making it up to the admin team. Like I'm okay with both ways.
We are taking a look at that.
Yeah.
And it will be, there will be a different process next season for selecting captains. Just signing up as a captain and just being high on the solo ladder is not going to guarantee you a spot. There's some people that took up captaincy this season that had no idea what they were in for, and once they found out, they stepped down. They decided,
Yeah.
you know what, I can't handle the responsibility. I'm not capable. I had one captain that his way of getting in touch with people was just message them on League. No spreadsheet with email addresses, cell phone numbers, Reddit usernames, whatever. No way to actually contact people, and that's just really poor job as a captain. And that team's performing very poorly. And it's not a surprise, because the captain wasn't organized and wasn't able to get people together in order to make something happen on that. You've got to have, I stress, cell phone numbers in a spreadsheet so that the captain can send out a mass text to everybody. Some people want to be anal about their numbers. That's fine. I can't force anybody to give over their cell number, but that's just one of the things as a captain that it's your job to do, in addition to keeping up morale, in addition to being the leader who develops strategies and gets your people out there. So yes,
An issue with that though is we have some Canadian players with like me, Wilson, and Omero, just to name a few, and we can't really text American.
There's an app called Kick on iPhone and Android. If you don't have an Android and iPhone, I don't know what century you're living in, but you can have group messaging with that, and it's free. It's just Wi-Fi. You could even have it on a an iPod. So there's ways around it. You can even have
Yeah.
Skype on your phone and stuff like that. There's ways around it, but I do want to chime in real quickly. Another thing Zark brought up, like I said, Zark did very well with his suggestions earlier this weekend. Writing up like rules and stuff like that. And one of the things we talked about, me and him, was how captains were picked. And I think the best way to have it is granted, having a community vote is good. I like that, but at the same time, you got to think of like this. That turns into a popularity contest. It's not. It might not work out the way people think it will. So way we, at least what I'm thinking is just having a sign up for captains. You know, if you want to be a captain, sign up, and then that way we can have our admins, which by then we'll have 4 to 5, maybe even more. Will actually sit there and go through each application. Okay, why is this guy going to be a good captain? Do we think he is? Does he have the right knowledge? And then we go from there, and maybe we'll be able to work with that. But it's going to be a little bit more work on the admins to do it that way. But I think it's going to work that way. So we're going to look into the captains. It's definitely um, definitely something to look into. But I'm not a big fan of the community vote for the fact that a community vote will turn into a popularity contest. So maybe we can implement both, have a community vote and admin approval. So, we have a community vote of top 20 players, and then afterwards, the admins will be like, okay, what are the top 10 people that we think is going to be good captains? And then we go, and that's how we decide. So it's a little bit all over, all over right now. And even then, those captains might not even want to be a captain. So it's probably going to end up turning down to sign up for captains and actually making sure that they're good candidates.
Right, and that the admins are the best people to make those decisions, not because we're necessarily more qualified than everybody, but we hear about a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Stuff about people that you guys don't hear about necessarily. We have the private one-on-one conversations with these people, and we just know where a lot of things stand. We have pieces of information that the community at large doesn't have. So the community at large voting on that, I'm gonna go with Dave on that. It's not necessarily a good idea. That being said, is there still room to have community involvement influence the decisions? 100%, yes. If I've got a whole bunch of people coming to me saying, hey, we really like this guy for captain, I hope you guys consider him because there's a lot of people that really want to play for him. That weighs heavily in his favor. And if we look at him and everything else lines up, we're like, sure, yeah, let's go for it with that guy. So it's not that community involvement won't be a factor, but it will be one of the factors that the group of admins are going to decide on.
All right, you had a last point, right?
Yeah, one last point was, I know it's been talked about a lot, but there are still a few things I wanted to add about the substitute policy. And I can understand your decisioning for making a 7-man roster this season, but because of people can't just bring out any substitutes randomly, so it's fixated to 2 people. But my problems with the 7-man roster right now is one that you only have 2 subs that have to play 5 positions, which is
hang on,
each of them have
to, I know I said I wouldn't interrupt anybody, but we're getting rid of the 7-man roster. So in the interest of time, if that solves that problem, then we can move on to the next person. If you had additional stuff to say, that's cool, but we are getting rid of the 7-man roster. It just didn't work out.
So I'll skip the 7-man roster thing then. So for the new sub policy, I'm okay with what you guys decide on, but the main 3 things that I want to see in a new substitute policy is there has to be a limiter on how much you can sub. So maybe 1 sub every 2 weeks or something like that. So what's it called? People can sub, but not way too often. So they can sub 1 position at a time or something like that. I'll leave that up to you guys, but there should be at least some sort of rule to limit how much a team can sub. The next thing is I think a spreadsheet that keeps track of all the main roster changes should help a lot of people understand what got changed, where it got changed, just looking at the history of the team. and they can understand more on the team that they're facing and why they're making such changes. And the last thing is there should be 1 week notice of any changes. So let's say every trade should go down on Sundays or something like that. So a team has 1 week in advance to prepare for any roster changes or any new subs that are coming in.
And that's where we sit right now. It's several people have messaged me outside of Sunday and asked me to make roster modifications, and I've told them no, we don't handle those outside of Sunday. It's just there's an exception to that if a team has a player drop out and that really negatively impacts them because of other things that went on. Again, that's one of those being flexible things that I was talking about. But another exception, and this one was actually written down, was that if a team is unable to put 5 men on the field come Saturday, then yes, we would allow a roster replacement to take place outside of Sundays.
I can understand a team needing a substitute. Problem is, if someone uses a substitute, then their team's at a huge disadvantage. It's not even a small disadvantage coming in. It's like the individual skill that drops from having a sub, like right now, is like really vast, and it's like day and night for some teams. Like you saw, a perfect example is, like, no offense to Peaches, but when he was brought into his team for Wilson's game against the enemy's team, like it wasn't pretty, and like the team dynamic is a lot different when Peaches is there versus when Wilson is there. So there has to be like a good ruling that they can somehow get relevant subs, not just like a huge downgrade.
I like that idea. This has been stated a good amount of times tonight, but how subs and trades and free agency is going to be handled is definitely going to be different. It's just trying to find the perfect way. But I do agree with you on the fact that having someone, like you say, a platinum player subbing for a diamond player, it's going to be night and day. And I do think the Peaches example is a good example of that.
Yeah, that's the main things I was talking about.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Appreciate
Strathagos, is he still in here? Yep. All right, you have the floor, Strathagos, if you are still here. Oh, okay.
He just
you don't have
wanted to push
anything
the
to
button.
say? You want to say hi? Shout out to my fam. Okay. All right.
Is Ginger
Wumple.
here?
Yeah, Ginger's here. We're gonna skip you Wumple because I think he needs duo queuing. I don't know why he signed up twice. All right.
Yeah.
Ginger. All right. I don't speak Morse code. Just FYI.
Yeah.
All right. Your mic is really throwing me off here. I gotta stop.
Yeah, Ginger, you're gonna have
sorry.
to fix your mic, dude. Synonym?
Okay. Synonym. There you are. Alright.
I personally feel like the way the point system is being evaluated should be changed a little bit. As in, like, maybe, yeah, I like the example of, like, a head-to-head matchup in terms of who's gonna win the tiebreaker, or in terms of how the points should be, like, weighed down. Like, yeah, I guess a point, like 1 point per objective is alright, but I think it should be determined based on how important the objective is. And since we have, like, casters or maybe an analytical caster, they can determine how important one objective is compared to another at a certain time. Like, I think, like, maybe a Baron seal when you're behind should count as like 5 points maybe. And like going for a 1-for-1 turret, it should be like evaluated as 1.
Yeah, but what's classified as a steal? If one team starts the
Yeah.
Baron before you do, within how many seconds, and
That would be.
what classifies?
I like
Well,
the
a
idea.
steal would be when the opponent jungler or any enemy member actually takes the Baron away from the team that actually starts it in the beginning.
what
that's what
defines
would
what
class-
starts it?
Yeah.
Well, whoever engages it first.
So if we're both racing to Baron and you get there a second before my team does, and a big fight
Or,
breaks out,
or like it'll be better as in which team has a better positioning for taking the Baron down. Like let's say you have four people grouped in the Baron pit taking it down, but like the enemy jungler just comes into the pit and smites it.
I mean, I know what a clear and obvious Baron
Yeah, I know, but,
steal
like-
is, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
but a
is
positioning matters a lot.
there's several different scenarios in there that, yes, there's an obvious Baron steal, and then there's a questionable. We'd have to, and it would take way too much time to have a panel sit down and analyze every single tower.
Yeah.
Dragon,
Or it
Baron,
could be
taken.
I like
like
the
after
idea.
the game, but
Well,
maybe
even
not
then-
like that, but maybe just do like Baron as like a solid 5 for the losing team, like in the end.
This is the first idea I'm just gonna say is not gonna work.
Yeah.
There's just too
Stuff
many
like this
problems
can
with it.
work in, like, say, a game like Call of Duty, because this is how it's done back in the day with, like, COD 2 and COD 4. There's a lot of point systems when it came to stuff, and then they actually dropped that because they just didn't like that at all. I like it. I mean, it's a great idea. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's so hard to implement into something like this that I agree with you. It's just something it would be impossible.
We do have
It would
a
be
better
way too much
solution.
time.
You're correct in talking about the point system, breaking ties and whatnot. And one of the things that we are most likely going to do is use points as a third method of breaking ties. Or really, no, a third method of deciding placement. So obviously the first method is going to be your number of wins. So if you have, like Breaking Bard went 6-1 this season, they're clearly, undisputedly the champs of the season. Well, what happens when two teams went 4-3, let's say, right? Then what we had previously done is we go to points, and we decide from there. Okay, this team has 6 more points than the other team who's 4-3, so they get the third place spot, the fourth place spot, whatever it is. A user brought up to me that wasn't actually the best way of doing things, because let's say team A and team B both 4-3. Team A has 423 points and team B has 419 points, right? But in the group stage, team B actually beat team A. So is it fair for team A to get a spot over them even though the other team beat them? I don't believe it is. So one of the things we're looking at is moving to the that being the second determining factor. Okay, if you're tied with another team, then which of you beat the other one? And then if that leads to a 3-way tie, then we go to the points.
But okay, so in terms of priority, points should be last, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, then that idea would be better than what I brought up. 'Cause I just don't like the fact that like a team, I guess in a way, like if you were close or if you were even in terms of objectives for a majority of the game, and then you suddenly lose, like let's say like a 60-minute game or 70, like no matter how long it is, you should deserve to like earn some points, which I agree, but I don't think that should be a major factor comparing to a team that just straight up dominated.
Correct.
Or yeah, like
So
When teams are able to take advantage of a simple mistake from another team, I've always seen them as, even though they might be behind, I mean, look at Cloud9. They almost always, I mean, I'm looking at Season 3 because this is when I actually really enjoyed watching games and analyzing them. They would almost always win their lose their laning phase, but they had such great objective control and, like, were able to actually I mean, this is when the rotation stuff started to happen. They were able to really take control of the map and dominate afterwards, even though it might look like they were losing. I mean, there's a clear example of, there's one game there against TSM. They were down in kills, down in gold, down in towers, but they just man-moded down mid lane, took down 2 towers, got an inhib, and were able to just turn the game around without any hassle. So even though one team might seem like they're winning, in reality they might not actually be winning. So when it comes to stats stuff, I really think stats is kind of one of those overused. Like, you might have the best KDA in the game, but if you're the one making the mistakes for your team, you're not a good player. And I'm not saying that in like a mean way, but I'm just saying like that doesn't really show that you're a good player. So, but in reality, I do like your idea of like what you suggested originally, just not for League of Legends. I could see that working and like say something like Call of Duty, because that's actually exactly how it was done in COD 2 and COD 4 when it was played professionally. It was one of the original esports games before like Counter-Strike and stuff like, or not before Counter-Strike. So, but yep. Overall, let's anything else you got?
No, I'm good.
Alrighty. One last person. If you have not signed up, I'll put the link. Let me see. John the Greatest. Young Xenonim. Alright, John, you got the floor.
Hey, since we were just talking about points and everything, I thought we could switch from how we do points now to the LPL style. Like, have 2-game series and do something like that. Right?
You did message me this. Go on, Anthson, I'll let you.
Don, if you say 8.
2-game series is the format that we originally set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few problems with it. Number one, the teams that are underperforming, the longer they go on, it seems, the more problems that they begin to develop with one another. And once a clear winner emerges, the other players in the group sort of start to lose interest. And that's why we made the decision season 1 to move our end-season tournament to our mid-season tournament and just reboot and do the draft all over again. And then another person brought up summer is coming, and he felt actually just the 1-game round robin stage plus the actual playoff was too long as well. So we have to keep in mind the length of the season. I think 2 months is a reasonable length.
This with the 2-game series, it'd still be 7. It'd be 7 weeks. If you did, each team plays one other team every week.
You're talking about just the group stage, though.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
the group
the
stage
entire
would be 7
tournament.
weeks.
Because you're talking about a
'cause right now it's
4-week
about
finals.
6. Yeah. Right now, I think that's what we planned on for playoffs, was 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yep, and
Depends at the moment.
Especially if we add 10
What's the difference
teams.
right now? Like, what's it right now?
Right now, every team plays every other team
5
once.
weeks.
Yeah,
It's a
the same-
5-week group stage. So we would have to move that from a 5-week group stage to a 10-week group stage, and then have a 4-week playoff. So you're looking at 14 weeks. It's just not doable. And I know that you have some math that bumps it down to 7 weeks, but realistically, playing and casting every single one of those games every Saturday, 5 games is about what we've settled on that we can fit
We don't.
in.
Yeah, we don't cast a lot of games right now. Anyway, I think like one of our games have been casted.
We're trying to change that, at least for. I mean, this week we were planning on casting every single game, and due to the 2 forfeits, we just weren't able to. We actually had the time, actually.
We did.
And you got to understand that we were trying to like find the right amount of time, and we ended up switching it to where it's every hour, and then we're planning. I think Anthson's plan. I haven't really had much input because this is something we haven't really brought up talking to each other. But every hour a game starts, and then maybe like removing 5 minutes at the end. That way, every game is played, but every game can be casted at the same time, and it's not too, long. And having 2 streams is a great idea. Only problem is the people that can actually stream is Anthson. I can't stream, unfortunately. My internet's too bad.
None of my casters can stream.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But I mean, like, I might be able to change that in the future. But at the current moment, we can't.
It takes a fair amount of processing power, graphic power, and upload bandwidth in order to be able to stream a respectable looking stream. And unfortunately, we don't have that second streamer. If we did, yes, I would love to have a second Twitch channel that would simultaneously stream and cast the overlap games, I guess you could call them. But the goal from the beginning is stream every game, cast every game. That is what makes this competition unique versus all the other ones out there. And it's something that we're going to continue aiming for. We might not hit it, but it's something we're going to continue aiming for every single week.
Also, man, there's actually something I wanted to bring up, but forgot. But anyways, go on. Do you have anything else, or I think you had a few other suggestions.
No, I just thought it'd be easier for point system with that. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. I remember what I was gonna say. Another thing a lot of people need to take a quick note on is that, granted, you might be able to play every day, all day, the entire week, but some people, they have school, they have jobs. Like, sometimes it's kind of not doable for some things. So for some people, and granted, the people that literally just don't have any time are gonna. It's gonna be hard, but oh crap. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
Nian just
extremely
got
hard.
I want to note Nian just got a pentakill on
The
Challenger Series. Never mind. Like
the person
okay.
who's streaming, and a lot of y'all are bringing this up in chat, and I appreciate that. The person who's streaming, we can't depend on if they're a player, because they might be in game at the time, or they might be talking with their team about their upcoming game 2 hours from now and working out strategies and testing things out in customs and going over video footage. I mean, a player's responsibility is to their team when they're playing. So no, we can't have a player streaming. So who wants to sign up just so they can stream? It's very hard to find somebody like that. We're working toward it, and I hope we get there. I want to sign up more casters, and hopefully one of these casters one of these days is going to have the ability to stream well. But until we get to that point, it's a hope and not something that we can just easily pull the trigger on and make happen. And you got to realize the amount of things that person would have to give up in order to commit to being able to do that week after week. I mean, I've had to give up work things that I'm supposed to do for my job. I've had to make alternate arrangements for that. My daughter's birthday, I have had to reschedule around the league time so that I have time to get home and get things started. So I had to work with everybody to make sure that they could come out at noon so that we could be done in order for me to get back by 5 and start the stream. And find somebody who's willing to reschedule or work around their daughter's birthday in order to come home and stream some games for a bunch of strangers on the internet, and I'm all for it. But I haven't had any luck with it. If you want to help out and try to find somebody, more power to you. I'm all ears. Let me know.
Yeah, I know Malkathos is bringing up that he has a second box. I mean, in reality, if you're able to really do that, me and Anthson will definitely work with you. This up OBS. It's just you gotta keep in mind that you can't just have the stream doesn't run on itself. Like there's a lot of stuff you would have to, touch on and everything like that.
Oh yeah, everything that the champion select music doesn't play by itself. The summoner hiders don't go up by themselves. The screen transitions don't happen. There is a whole back end to it that actually you got to know what you're doing when it comes to OBS. I'm not saying it's like computer programming or AutoCAD or anything, but it's not Microsoft Word where you just type the words and they come out. There are a lot of different things that you have to do in order to get it set up like you want to, and you've got to stay on top of it. You got to maintain it. The person operating the camera has to swap the champion icons at the bottom, and you have to be able to press that A key when the overlay is covering up the action. So you can't just set it on autopilot and then go to a barbecue. you've got to join the games. You've got to actively participate in moving the camera around, because the auto camera doesn't work 100%. There are a lot of times where the auto camera is following an almost kill, and then it'll cut away because it knew ahead of time that it wasn't going to be a kill. But it's like that takes away from the action. People want to see, oh, is he going to do? Oh, is he going to do? Ah! And then it cuts away right at that moment. And you're like, fuck. This type of things you have to keep on top of to be. And I'm not the greatest cameraman either, especially if I'm casting at the same time as being a cameraman. So there's a lot of challenges.
All right, and you said you got nothing else. All right, so that's it.
Yeah.
But I want to note that not everyone signed up. So if you, I don't know, Anthson, if you want to, if just unmute anyone, and anyone wants to bring up something, we can have kind of like a group discussion. It's not going to be a part of the open forum, but more of a group discussion if anything wants to do anything along those lines. Thanks. We're gonna probably say a few words beforehand. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for these suggestions. I think having this right here has really helped, because a lot of people have been, I want this to change, but they didn't think anything was actually being worked. But as you can tell, we are working on a lot of these things that people have suggested. So I want to know. I want to thank everyone for coming out, and actually like suggesting things. There's a lot of things you guys suggested that I was like, oh, we can actually maybe implement this, and this can actually work compared to something else. So
yeah, we actually got some good ideas that nobody else had thought of before today, and
yes,
I want to say thank you to everybody that brought those up. It's rare when you get an idea that comes along where you're like, you know what, there's absolutely no way this can fuck anything up, and it will only make things better. So I really appreciate those. Keep those coming in droves, please.
And don't be afraid to contact me or Anthson. I'm on a good amount when I'm not at work, because this is basically my second job, because I don't have anywhere else to go. And I enjoy talking to a lot of you guys. You guys are all pretty good. Oh yeah, and comma. A lot of people, if you can't get in contact with me, Anthson, Kimchi, you can contact Kama, you can contact Jarrett. Hell, you can contact Arya Lover, and he'll try to get a handle of us. Just be, just note that. But Anthony, if you want, you gotta unmute everyone. Or if you have anything else left to say, I'm pretty done. I just really like saying that. I want to thank everyone for coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah, same here. But yeah, I'll go ahead and unmute the channel. And I have to go. I've got something to take care of, but I will. I'm gonna go ahead and post this to YouTube as well. And this isn't the first. This isn't the last open forum we're going to have. We're going to continue to do these things anytime we feel like it's really important to get people in here and just get an update on the situations we're going through and how the problems we talked about last time are being solved and how those solutions are working for everybody. So thanks again. Appreciate it, y'all.